The auction station floated above a junkyard moon called Kessa 7. Old ships and broken machines covered the moon's surface like a metal ocean. Salvagers came here to buy things nobody else wanted. Kang Do-hyun had been coming here for 15 years. He walked through the empty hallways of the station. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The lights above him flickered. This place was old and tired. Just like most things in the outer reaches of space. Do-hyun was 42 years old. He had gray hair at his temples and scars on his hands from years of cutting into dead ships. He worked for Earth's space program, finding alien technology and bringing it home. It was dangerous work. Many salvagers died doing it. But Do-hyun was still alive. And that meant something. Today he came for lot 447. His datapad showed the details. A Tyrannus-class galactic cruiser. Very old. Origin unknown. Condition sealed. Starting price 80,000 credits. It was cheap for a ship that size. Too cheap. That should have been his first warning. The auction room was large enough for 200 people. When Do-hyun walked in, every seat was empty. He stopped at the door and looked around. Nothing. No other buyers. No competition. Just silence. The auctioneer sat behind a tall desk. He was a Velith, one of the lizard people who ran most of the trade in this sector. He had 4 arms and rust-colored scales. His name tag said Broker Tessic. Tessic looked at Do-hyun with all 4 of his eyes. 2 of them blinked nervously. "You are the only one registered for lot 447? Tessic asked. "Looks that way," Do-hyun said. He sat in the front row. The chair creaked under him. Tessic made a clicking sound with his mouth parts. Do-hyun knew this meant the Velith was uncomfortable. "Sir, I must tell you something. 17 buyers have tried to purchase this ship before. All of them gave up their claims. What happened to them? They went to inspect the ship. They never came back to finish the purchase." Tessic leaned forward. "We sent people to look for them. We found nothing. The ship was empty. No bodies, no signs of violence. They simply disappeared." Do-hyun thought about this. He had seen many strange things in his career. Ships infected with parasites that ate through metal. Ships haunted by the ghosts of dead crew members. Ships that drove people mad just by being inside them. He had survived all of it. "I'll take it," he said. "Minimum bid." Tessic stared at him for a long moment. Then he pressed a button on his desk. "The ship is yours, human. May your ancestors protect you." 3 hours later, Do-hyun stood in a small transport ship, looking at his purchase through the window. The cruiser was massive. 3 kilometers long from front to back. Its hull was black. So black it seemed to eat the light around it. There were no markings anywhere. No symbols. No identification numbers. Nothing to show who built it or where it came from. Do-hyun had studied alien ships for years. He knew the curved lines of Velith design. He knew the heavy, brutal shapes the Kron liked. He knew the delicate patterns of Isari vessels. This ship looked like none of them. It was something else entirely. His communication device crackled. "Do-hyun. This is Yuna. Your heart rate is very high. Is everything okay?" Park Yuna was his partner. She waited on their salvage station, watching his vital signs through sensors in his suit. She was a former military doctor who had saved his life twice already. She worried too much, but that was why he trusted her. "The ship is strange," he said. "I'm going inside now. Be careful." "Always am." He guided his transport to the cruiser's main airlock. The metal door was huge, big enough for 20 people to walk through at once. He expected to need cutting tools to open it. He expected security systems, locked doors, alarms. Instead, when he touched the door, it opened by itself. The corridor beyond was lit with soft blue light. Emergency lighting, the kind that runs on almost no power. But this ship had been sitting in a junkyard for decades, maybe centuries. The lights should have died long ago. Do-hyun pulled the plasma cutter from his belt. It was a tool for cutting metal, but it could also burn through flesh if he needed it to. He stepped inside. The air was clean. Fresh, even. That was impossible. Old ships smelled like rust and decay and death. This one smelled like nothing at all. He walked for 20 minutes. The corridors twisted and turned in ways that made no sense. He passed doors that were sealed shut. He passed windows that looked into rooms filled with strange machines. Everything was quiet. Everything was still. Then he found the body. It was lying against a wall in a small room. Not human. Not any species Do-hyun knew. It had 2 arms and 2 legs like a person, but the proportions were wrong. The arms were too long. The joints bent in the wrong directions. The skin was pale, gray, almost white. The body had been dead for a very long time. But it was perfectly preserved. No decay. No damage. Just frozen in place. Like a statue made of flesh. Do-hyun's heart was pounding now. He forced himself to breathe slowly. He had seen dead aliens before. This was nothing new. He just needed to document it and move on. Then he looked up. Above the body, someone had carved words into the metal wall. The letters were strange, shifting and changing when he tried to focus on them. His brain could not understand them. They hurt to look at, but at the bottom of the message, 3 words were written differently. 3 words in perfect, clear Korean characters. Ingunur Chajara. Do-hyun felt cold. The words meant, find the humans. He stood there for a long time, staring at that message. Someone had written it here. Someone had known, thousands of years ago, that humans would come. Someone had been waiting for them. Yuna, he said into his communicator. His voice was shaking. I need you to come here. Bring Junho. Bring everyone. I found something. What did you find? Do-hyun looked at the ancient body, at the words carved in stone, at the ship that should not exist. I think I found the reason humanity matters. Do-hyun did not sleep that night. He sat in the command deck of the cruiser, surrounded by screens and buttons he did not understand. The chairs were too tall for human bodies. The controls were designed for hands with more fingers than his own. Everything felt wrong. Like wearing clothes made for a giant. He ran every program he had. Translation software, historical databases, spectral analysis tools. Nothing worked. The ship's language was not in any system. The metal was made of elements his scanner could not identify. The technology was beyond anything humans had ever seen. But the internal sensors worked. That was the strange part. The ship seemed to want him to know what was inside it. And what was inside made his blood turn cold. Life signs. 2,847 of them. Yuna's voice came through his earpiece. She was still on the salvage station, watching his data from far away. Do-hyun, those readings must be wrong. That ship has been sitting in storage for decades. The readings are correct, he said. They are in stasis pods. Sleeping. They have been sleeping for a very, very long time. What species? Unknown. Same as the dead one I found. He paused. Yuna, the technology in these pods is incredible. It keeps them alive without any visible power source. It repairs their bodies while they sleep. The Galactic Concord has nothing like this. Nobody does. This is too big for us, Yuna said. We should report it. Call the authorities. Do-hyun thought about the Concord. He thought about how they treated humans. Second-class citizens. Primitive newcomers. Good enough to do dangerous work, but never good enough to sit at the big table. If he reported this ship, they would take it. They would take everything, and humans would never learn the truth. Not yet, he said. I need to understand what this is first. The next day, Yuna came aboard. She brought her brother with her. Park Junho was 28 years old. He was thin and nervous and brilliant. He had been kicked out of 3 universities for asking questions his professors could not answer. His specialty was languages. And he believed that all the languages in the galaxy came from the same source. Nobody took him seriously. They called him crazy. Today, he did not look crazy. He looked terrified. They stood in the corridor where Do-hyun had found the body. Junho stared at the writing on the wall. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped his scanner twice. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You recognize it?" Do-hyun asked. "No, yes. I do not know how to explain." Junho picked up his scanner again. "I have studied every language in the known galaxy. Velith, Kron, Isari, hundreds of others. They all have pieces that do not make sense. Grammar rules with no origin. Number systems that appeared from nowhere. Words that exist in multiple species but should not. And," Junho pointed at the wall, "this is where they came from. This language. Every species in the galaxy has been speaking broken pieces of it for thousands of years. This is the root. The original. The mother tongue of everything." Yuna was already walking deeper into the ship. "We need to find the power source. These stasis pods are drawing energy from somewhere. If the ship has been dark for centuries, there must be something still running." They followed her through corridors and down stairways. Do-hyun noticed that the ship seemed to guide them. Lights turned on ahead of them. Doors opened before they arrived. It was like the vessel was alive and wanted them to find something. The reactor room was at the heart of the ship. When Do-hyun saw what was inside, he stopped breathing. It was not a reactor. It was a star. A miniature sun, no bigger than a small car, floating in the center of the room. It burned with steady yellow light. Magnetic fields held it in place, contained it, kept it from destroying everything around it. The heat coming from it should have killed them instantly. But some kind of shield kept them safe. "This is not possible," Yuna said softly. "A star needs millions of kilometers to exist," Junho added. "The gravity alone should crush everything nearby. The physics of this. They do not exist. Not in any book, not in any theory." Do-hyun walked closer to the light. It was beautiful. The most beautiful thing he had ever seen. And it had been burning here. Alone in the dark. For longer than human civilization had existed. "Humans are not supposed to be special," he said. "That is what the Concord always told us. Late arrivals, lucky to be included. Too primitive to matter." "What are you saying?" Yuna asked. "What if they lied?" Do-hyun turned to face them. "What if they have been lying to us since the day we joined the galaxy? What if humans are more important than anyone wants us to know?" That night, they began exploring the stasis chambers. Deck 7 was filled with pods. Hundreds of them, lined up in rows like a sleeping army. Each pod contained one of the strange beings. Their eyes were closed. Their chests rose and fell with slow, steady breaths. They looked peaceful. Do-hyun touched the glass of one pod. It was warm under his fingers. "They knew we would come," he said. "They wrote that message in Korean." "But why?" Yuna asked. What could humans possibly have that beings this advanced would need? Junho was scanning the pods with his equipment. "I am reading their genetic structure. It is remarkable. They are old. Very old. Their cells show signs of extreme age. Millions of years, maybe. Millions? Yes. But there is something wrong with them. A kind of degradation I have never seen before. Like their bodies are slowly falling apart at the deepest level." Do-hyun looked at the sleeping faces around him. Ancient beings. Builders of technology beyond imagination. Creators of languages that spread across the stars. And they were dying. They came here looking for a cure, he realized. They built this ship. They went to sleep. And they left a message for us. Because somehow, some way, they believed humans could save them. "That is insane," Yuna said. "We do not have technology like this. We cannot even understand their language. Maybe we do not need to understand it." Do-hyun thought about Earth. About the centuries of struggle and survival. About the wars and plagues and disasters that should have destroyed humanity but never did. Maybe what they need is not our technology. Maybe it is something else. Something in our blood. Something in our spirit. Something that makes humans keep going when everything says we should give up. He looked at the captive star, burning its endless light into the darkness. "We need to wake them up," he said. "We need to learn the truth." The first pod opened by accident. Junho was scanning the stasis chambers on Deck 8. He was documenting everything, taking pictures and measurements and recordings. His scanner had a small antenna that extended from the top. When he leaned too close to one of the pods, the antenna touched an external panel. The pod made a clicking sound, then a hissing sound. Then it began to glow. "Get back," Do-hyun shouted. He pulled his plasma cutter from his belt and aimed it at the pod, but nothing attacked them. The glass cover of the pod slowly rose. Cold air rushed out, fog rolling across the floor like water. And inside, something moved. The being sat up slowly. It was female. Or at least, that was how Do-hyun's mind understood it. She was tall, taller than any human, with long limbs and pale gray skin. Her features looked almost human, but slightly different. Her eyes were larger. Her fingers were longer. When she opened her eyes, Do-hyun saw that they were completely black, like windows into deep space. She looked at them, and then she spoke. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Yet Do-hyun heard her voice clearly in his mind. It was soft and ancient, and filled with a sadness that made his chest hurt. How long? The words formed directly in his thoughts. Junho's translation software was useless, but somehow, everyone understood. "We do not know exactly," Do-hyun said. His voice was shaking. "A very long time. Maybe 10,000 years. Maybe more." The being closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something wet was running down her cheeks. Not tears. The liquid was glowing, soft blue like the emergency lights in the corridors. "Then the others are gone," she said. "The architects. The shapers. All of them." "Who were they?" Yuna asked. She had moved closer, her medical instincts taking over. She wanted to help this creature, even though she did not understand what it was. "Our children." The word hung in the air. Do-hyun felt something cold crawling up his spine. "The galactic species," he said slowly. "The Velith. The Kron. The Asari. All of them. You created them? We seeded the galaxy with life." The being tried to stand, but her legs were too weak. She had been sleeping for thousands of years. Her muscles were not ready yet. Yuna caught her and helped her stay upright. "We gave them tools to grow. Language. Mathematics. The laws of working together. We were their parents. We watched them take their first steps among the stars." "What happened?" Junho asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "A sickness. It spread through our people. Not a disease of the body. Something deeper. A fading of purpose. A loss of will to exist. One by one, our kind stopped wanting to live. They let themselves die. Millions of us, billions, all choosing to end. But not you." Do-hyun said. "No, not us." She gestured at the pods around them. "We were the last. We built this ship. We entered the long sleep. We hoped that if we waited long enough, a cure would be found." "And you left a message," Do-hyun said. "In Korean. Find the humans. You knew we would come." "Our man." The being looked at him. She really looked. And Do-hyun felt like she was seeing through his skin, through his bones, into something deeper inside him. "Your species is different. You rose alone. No guidance, no gifts, no help from us." She reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were cold but gentle. "When we searched the future, looking for hope, we saw you. Humans. A species that carries fire in its blood. A species that refuses to die. We are not special," Do-hyun said. "We are just stubborn." "Yes." For the first time, she smiled. It looked strange on her face, like she was trying to copy something she had seen but never felt. "Wonderfully stubborn. Your genetic structure carries resistance to the sickness. It is in your cells, your very being. The chaos of your evolution created something we could never make ourselves." Yuna stepped forward. "You are saying that humans can cure your people?" "I am saying that humans are the cure. Over the next several weeks, they woke more of the sleepers. Yuna designed a medical protocol to help them recover safely. Their bodies were weak from the long sleep, but they healed quickly. Soon, dozens of the ancient beings were walking the corridors of the ship. They called themselves the Makers. They had created the galaxy as it existed today. Every species, every civilization, every language and number system, and moral code. It all came from them, but they had made mistakes. Do-hyun learned this from the one he had first awakened. She asked him to give her a human name, so she could feel closer to the species she had been waiting for. He called her Miran, because it meant beautiful in Korean, and there was something beautiful about her, despite her strangeness. We designed the Kron for strength, Miran explained one evening. They sat in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. We wanted them to be protectors, but we made their aggression too strong. They became conquerors instead. And the Veleth? We made them clever, good with numbers and trade, but we forgot to give them empathy. They see other beings as tools, not people. She sighed. The Asari were meant to be scientists. Instead, they became weapons makers. Every child we created went wrong somehow. We tried to fix them, but our sickness was already spreading. We ran out of time, and then you found us. Do-hyun said. We found you. Miran turned to look at him. Humans were an accident. We did not create your species. Earth was too dangerous, too unstable for proper seeding. Extreme temperatures, constant disasters, a planet that tried to kill everything on it. We thought nothing could survive there, but we did. You did more than survive. You thrived. You built civilization without any help. You developed technology, art, music, philosophy. You did in thousands of years what our designed species took millions to achieve. She paused. And you did it while fighting your planet every step of the way. Do-hyun thought about human history. The ice ages, the plagues, the wars, all the times they should have been destroyed, but kept going anyway. Maybe that is why we are different, he said. We never had the choice to give up. It was fight or die. Every single day. Yes, Miran said. And that fighting spirit, that refusal to accept defeat, is exactly what our people lost. It is exactly what we need to survive. She stood and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, her children were building empires and fighting wars and treating humans like second-class citizens. They had no idea where they came from. They had forgotten their parents entirely. The galaxy needs to know the truth, she said. But I am afraid of what will happen when they learn it. Why? Because the children have become powerful. And powerful beings do not like to learn that they are not as important as they believed. She turned back to him. There will be resistance, maybe violence. Are humans ready for that? Do-hyun thought about the question. Humans had been pushed around by the Concord for 200 years, treated as primitives, denied respect, given the worst jobs and the smallest opportunities. We have been ready for a long time, he said. We just needed a reason to push back. The news spread faster than Do-hyun could control it. Someone talked. Maybe a worker on the salvage station. Maybe a pilot who delivered supplies. It did not matter who. Within 3 days, the entire galaxy knew that something incredible had been found in the junkyard moon's orbit. The Galactic Concord responded immediately. 7 warships arrived first. They were massive, bristling with weapons, designed to intimidate and destroy. Behind them came a fleet of transport ships carrying diplomats, scientists, and soldiers, 100 bureaucrats with 1,000 guards. Enough firepower to crack the moon in half. The leader of the delegation was High Arbiter Tosca. He was a Kron, one of the warrior species that dominated galactic politics. He stood 3 meters tall, with thick gray skin and 4 eyes that never blinked. His reputation was famous throughout human space. He had voted against human interests in every Concord meeting for 50 years. He hated humans. Everyone knew it. Do-hyun met him in the cruiser's landing bay. Behind Do-hyun stood Yuna and Junho. Behind them, in the shadows, waited Miran and a dozen other awakened makers. The ancient beings had agreed to let Do-hyun speak first. They wanted to see what their children had become. The vessel and its contents are hereby claimed under Salvage Law Provision 7 Alpha, Tosca announced. His voice boomed through the bay like thunder. Humanity lacks the infrastructure to properly study such a significant find. The Concorde will take custody. Do-hyun did not move. The ship belongs to me. Legal purchase. Documented transaction. You are one human. Tosca leaned forward, his 4 eyes focused on Do-hyun like weapons. We are the Galactic Concorde. Do you truly believe your species has standing to possess technology of this magnitude? It was the same argument humans had heard for 2 centuries. You are small. You are weak. You are nothing compared to us. Know your place. But this time, Do-hyun had an answer. Arbiter Tosca, he said calmly. Are you familiar with the term, creator species? Tosca's nostril slits flared. Mythology. Primitive stories told by primitive species to explain things they cannot understand. They are real. Do-hyun stepped aside, revealing the makers standing behind him. There are 2,500 of them on this ship, and they are very interested in meeting the civilizations they built. For the first time in his life, Tosca had nothing to say. Miran walked forward. She moved slowly, her body still recovering from the long sleep, but her presence filled the room. The other makers followed her. They were tall and strange and obviously not any species the Concorde had ever seen. She looked at Tosca. She looked at the soldiers behind him, at the ships beyond the windows, at the weapons pointed at the cruiser. You are Kron, she said. Her voice echoed in everyone's mind. We designed your species to be guardians, protectors of the weak, defenders of the innocent. Tosca took a step backward. His soldiers raised their weapons. What are you? We are your makers, your creators, your parents. Miran's black eyes showed no emotion. And we have been sleeping for 10,000 years, waiting for someone to wake us up. It was not the Kron who came. It was not the Velith or the Asari. It was the humans, the species you have been treating as inferior for 200 years. One of Tosca's officers stepped forward. This is a trick, some kind of deception. Humans have always been jealous of our power. Miran turned to him. You are right to be suspicious. You do not know us. You have no reason to trust what we say. She raised her hand. So let me show you. Light poured from her palm. It spread through the room, touching every mind present. Suddenly, Do-hyun could see memories that were not his own. Ancient memories. Memories of creation. He saw the makers building the first Kron, designing their bodies for strength and courage, programming their minds with honor and duty. He saw them release the Kron into the galaxy, proud parents watching their children take first steps. He saw the same for the Velith, for the Asari, for dozens of other species, each one designed with a purpose, each one given gifts to help them survive. He saw the makers watch as their children grew, built civilizations, developed technology, and slowly, generation by generation, forgot where they came from. He saw the sickness spread among the makers, the loss of will, the acceptance of death. He saw millions of ancient beings simply stop living because they had lost the desire to continue. And he saw the makers who refused to give up, who built the cruiser, who went to sleep, who left a message for a species that did not yet exist. Find the humans. The light faded. The room was silent. Tosca's officers were on their knees. Some of them were crying. The truth was too big to deny. It had been placed directly into their minds. But Tosca himself was still standing. His 4 eyes were wide, but his body was rigid with anger. This changes nothing, he said. His voice was shaking. We built our empires ourselves. We conquered our enemies ourselves. We do not need parents. We do not need creators. And we certainly do not need humans telling us what to do. Miran looked at him with something like pity. You conquered 12 species into extinction, she said. The Veleth built their economy on genetic slavery. The Asari created weapons that can sterilize entire worlds, and you have all spent centuries treating humans as lesser beings simply because they arrived at space travel later than you. They are lesser beings. They are the only species in this galaxy that we did not create. Miran's voice grew harder. They rose alone. They built everything themselves. They survived a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They did what none of you could do. She stepped closer to Tosca. They earned their place among the stars. You were given yours as a gift. Tosca's hand moved toward his weapon. His soldiers raised their guns. But before anyone could fire, Junho stepped forward. The young linguist looked terrified, but his voice was steady. I have translated the ship's historical records, he said. They contain information about every species in the galaxy. Origins. Design specifications. Everything. So the Concord has always told humans that we are primitive, that we developed slower than other species, that our technology is inferior. Junho held up his datapad. But according to these records, the Kron had been given technology by the makers, the Veleth had been given mathematics, the Asari had been given scientific method. Humans invented all of those things ourselves. From nothing, he looked at Tosca. We are not slower than you, Arbiter. We were never given a head start. If you put humans on equal ground with any species in the Concord, we would have surpassed you centuries ago. Tosca's face twisted with rage. But behind him, his soldiers were lowering their weapons. The truth was settling into their minds. The hierarchy they had believed in all their lives was a lie. This is not over, Tosca said. The Concord will hear about this. There will be consequences. Yes. Miran agreed. There will be. But not the consequences you are imagining. She turned to face the soldiers. The scientists. The bureaucrats who had come to take the ship. Go home. Tell your people what you saw today. Tell them the truth about where they came from. And tell them that the galaxy is about to change. Tosca stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back to his ship. His delegation followed him. Within an hour, the Concord fleet was gone. Do-hyun stood at the window, watching them leave. What happens now? He asked. Miran stood beside him. Now we wake the rest of our people. And then we begin to fix what our children have broken. The Conquered will not let this go. No. They will fight. Some of them, at least. She turned to look at him. But humans have been fighting your entire existence. Are you afraid? Do-hyun thought about the question. He thought about Earth. About all the times humanity should have died but refused to. About the fire that burned in human blood. No, he said. We have been waiting for this chance for a long time. The Galactic Concord fell apart within 1 year. It did not happen through war, though many had expected violence. It happened because the truth was too powerful to hide. The Maker's memories had been shared with thousands of beings that day on the cruiser. Those beings went home and told others. Those others told more people. Within weeks, the secret was everywhere. The children of the Makers had to face a simple fact. Everything they believed about themselves was wrong. They were not natural. They were not special. They were designed, like machines, for purposes their creators had chosen, and they had failed at those purposes almost completely. Some species reacted with anger. The Kron government tried to suppress the information. They arrested journalists. They shut down communication networks, but the truth spread anyway, passed from person to person, in whispers and secret messages. Other species reacted with shame. The Veleth dismantled their slave markets within 3 months. It was not enough to make up for centuries of cruelty. But it was a beginning. The Asari stopped selling weapons to the highest bidder and began working on technologies to heal worlds instead of destroy them. And humans? Humans reacted the way they always did. They kept working. The cruiser was renamed Hope's Anchor. Do-hyun became its captain, though he never wanted the title. He was a salvager, not a leader. But the makers trusted him, and other humans followed his example, and somehow he found himself at the center of everything. Yuna built a medical facility on Deck 15. She worked with maker healers to understand the sickness that had nearly destroyed their people. The cure was in human blood, in human cells, in the genetic chaos that evolution had created. Human volunteers donated samples. Scientists developed treatments. Slowly, the makers grew stronger. Junho translated the ship's archives. There were millions of records, covering billions of years of galactic history. He discovered that the makers had created not just the major species, but hundreds of others. Most of those species had died out long ago. Failed experiments that could not survive. The ones that remained were the lucky ones. The ones whose designs happened to work. "We made so many mistakes," Miran told Do-hyun one evening. They stood on the observation deck, watching Earth rise over the lunar station where Hope's anchor was now docked. "We thought we were wise. We thought we understood life. But we were just guessing, like children playing with dangerous toys." "Why did you keep going?" Do-hyun asked. "If you knew you were making mistakes, why not stop?" "Because we hoped that eventually we would get it right. We hoped that one of our children would surpass us, would become something better than we could ever be." She looked at him. "We did not expect that child to come from a planet we never touched." The galaxy changed slowly, like a river changing its course. The Concord did not disappear, but it transformed. Human representatives gained equal standing with other species. Laws were rewritten. Old prejudices did not vanish overnight, but they weakened year by year as new generations grew up knowing the truth. Some beings could not accept the new reality. Tosca and his followers formed a resistance movement. They called themselves the True Inheritors. And they believed that the Maker's return was a trick, a conspiracy to destroy the natural order. They attacked human colonies. They assassinated Maker supporters. They tried to start the war that everyone had feared. But humans had been fighting their entire existence. They knew how to defend themselves. And now they had allies. 5 years after the awakening, Hope's anchor prepared for a new mission. The Makers had sealed off a region of space before their long sleep. Something was there, something they had been afraid to face in their weakened state. Now, recovered and restored, they wanted to confront it. And they wanted humans to lead the way. "What is out there?" Do-hyun asked. Miran hesitated. They were standing on the bridge of Hope's anchor, surrounded by the mixed crew that had gathered over the years. Humans. Reformed Velith who had rejected their species' dark history. Young Kron who had never believed the old propaganda. Even a few Isari scientists who had defected to study Maker technology. "We are not entirely sure," Miran admitted. "When we were young, billions of years ago, we encountered something. A presence, an intelligence older than us. It did not communicate. It did not respond to any attempt at contact. But it was there, watching. Watching what? Everything. The birth of stars. The evolution of life. The rise and fall of civilizations. We called it the Observer. We built barriers to keep it contained, to prevent it from interfering with our work. But those barriers are failing now, and we do not know what will happen when they fall." Do-hyun looked at his crew. Yuna was there, her medical bag over her shoulder. Junho was there, his datapad filled with translations and theories. Dozens of others, human and alien, stood ready. "Why do you want humans to lead this mission?" he asked. "Because you are the unexpected ones," Miran said. "We designed every species in this galaxy except you. We predicted their behavior, their reactions, their limits. We cannot predict humans. You surprise us. You surprise everyone. And we believe that is exactly what the Observer needs to see." Do-hyun thought about what she was saying. Humanity was the wild card, the accident, the species that was never supposed to exist but refused to disappear. "You think we can do something that you cannot? I think you can do things that no one in this galaxy has ever imagined. You survived a planet that tried to kill you. You built civilizations without help. You developed technology that should have taken millions of years in mere thousands. You are impossible." She smiled. "And this time, It looked natural on her face. She had been learning to express emotions the human way. And impossible is exactly what we need right now. The crew began their final preparations. Engines powered up. Navigation systems came online. The captive star at the heart of the ship burned brighter. Ready for the journey ahead, Yuna walked over to Do-hyun. "Are you sure about this? We have no idea what we are flying into." "No," he admitted. "But we have spent 10,000 years being told we are not good enough. Not smart enough. Not important enough. Now we have a chance to prove that every single one of those voices was wrong." He looked at the stars beyond the window. "I am not going to waste that chance." Junho looked up from his datapad. "Coordinates are set. We are ready to jump." Do-hyun sat in the captain's chair. It had been adjusted for his human body, but it still felt strange. He was a salvager from a junkyard moon. He had no business leading a mission that could change the history of the galaxy. But then again, humans had no business existing at all. And here they were. "All hands," he said, his voice carrying through every speaker on the ship. "This is Captain Kang Do-hyun. 5 years ago, I bought this ship at an empty auction because nobody else wanted it. I found a message on the wall that said, 'Find the humans.' At the time, I did not understand why. Now I do." He paused, looking at the mixed faces of his crew. "We are the ones who were never supposed to be here. We are the mistake that became a miracle. We are the species that refused to die, no matter how hard the universe tried to kill us. And now, we are going to show whatever is out there exactly what that means." He nodded to Junho. "Engage." Hope's anchor activated its ancient engines. Space bent around it. Stars stretched into lines of light, and the ship leaped forward, carrying humanity into the unknown. Behind them, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. A small blue world that had created something the entire galaxy needed. Not through design, not through planning, but through stubbornness, survival, and a refusal to ever give up. The makers had seeded 100,000 worlds, hoping one would produce a species that could save them. They had failed with every designed attempt. In the end, salvation came from the one world they had overlooked, the one species they never created. The accident, the miracle, humanity.